from IIT Roorkee is present with us. Good morning, Dr. Yadav.
Hi, good morning.
आवाज
आ रही है?
बिल्कुल आ रही है आपकी आवाज. And very nice to see you after such a long time.
हमने भी 1983 के आसपास उसके बाद से पहली बार आमने सामने देखो मुलाकात हो
हाँ,
गई.
right. जी जी जी.
93.
So I would like to welcome you on behalf of AN College Patna, our IQAC team coordinator, Dr. Arun Kumar. He is not here, but I am welcoming you on behalf of our principal and the whole of the college, and also from the participants who are the valuable participants here. So today, Dr. K.L. Yadav will be giving the second lecture. He will be delivering a second lecture today. So our distinguished speaker, Dr. K.L. Yadav, is currently professor and former head of physics department, Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee. He received his MSc and PhD degree in physics from Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Kharagpur in 1989 and 1994 respectively. In 2001, he was awarded the Boys Cast Fellowship at Material Research Institute, Penn State University, USA, which is such a prestigious university that all people who work in material science, especially in ferroelectrics, they have the dream to go there. In addition, he obtained his JSPS Japanese Fellowship at National Institute for Material Science, Tsukuba, Japan in 2010, and Royal Society of Edinburgh Fellowship to work at University of Glasgow, Scotland in 2014. In his academic career, he has published more than 200 research papers in SCI journals with 4,600 citations and with 38 H index factor and 114 I-10 index. His major research interests are functional nanomaterials and biomaterials. His current research work is focused on designing and developing perovskite materials for water remediation, solar cells, radar absorbing materials, electrodes for batteries, and energy generation by hydroelectric cells. So I welcome you once again, Professor Yadav, and would like to invite you to start your work.
Thank you, Professor Shima, for giving me a chance to speak in this ATAL FDP. So how many participants are there in this one?
There are altogether about 60 they come, but I think today 3-4 are less of me. Like right now we are 48, right?
Okay.
Apart from me and
50,
you.
Yeah.
But I think we go up to 60, about 60.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with this today's lecture. So I can share from this point. Okay, good morning to all of you. You are able to see these slides now?
We are able to see.
Yeah, fine. So this building is not the White House, but White House of IIT Roorkee, main building top view. And I think this was built in 1847, after that around, because this engineering college started in around 1847. So it's almost 167, how much, 175 years old. So, okay, so I will be giving the talk on today, what is the first about nanotechnology. So I'll be starting with some brief history and the total development of nanotechnology, what are in what fields it is being applied now, why people are after this nanotechnology. So that will be the main gist of this talk. So as you see, revolutionary technology waves, as we know, in through the past decades, we have Stone Age, different than computer age, information technology, everything. So similarly, in these revolutionary forces are there. So basic advancements in science and technology come about twice a century and lead to massive wealth creation. So as we see here, it's around 1771, then textiles technology started beginning, and then there was a pickup. And this is the yellow one is the introduction of the technology. then widespread adoption, and then end of the growth of phase, saturation starts, and then new development still come, but this is like statistics. So then railroad, automobile, computer, nanotechnology, I think this is started around 1997 and speed up. It is still in the highest slope state. It is expected that it may saturate like 2081, or it may go before that also. This is just like the statistical extrapolation. So initially up to this age, I think 1940, it was industrial revolution. After that, information revolution is going on. So what is the main aim of all this? So this railroad, auto, computer, nanotech, all are enabling technologies. Okay, no problem. So coming to the scale of things that we are talking, we have the things in natural like dust mite, fly ash, red blood cells, then RNA, DNA, and then we have the man-made things which are coming. The like head of the pin is 1-2 mm, and then we have micro electromechanical devices in the range of 10 to 100 micrometers. Then 1 micrometer. These are the coral cells which have been made. And these lines, if you see here, these are connectors of the carbon nanotubes. This is, I think all of you may be recognizing the photograph, the Professor Feynman. Feynman, he gave his 1959 and Caltech, so how they are related. So Professor Feynman in 1959, in just like a conference, as like we are having a workshop today. So he said there is a plenty of room at the bottom and an invitation to enter a new field of physics. So that was in his talk in 1959 he has given in Caltech. Then why this line is coming, yellow line, somebody from there. Hello, Professor Seema. Okay, let me go ahead. So he said, people tell me about miniaturization and how far it has been progressed today. They tell me there is a device in the market by which you can write lots of parents. हाँ ये क्या आ रहा है इसका पीले रंग से?
Sorry, Dr. Yadav, you were talking to me.
Yeah.
He's writing here. I don't know. I'll just remove it. Don't worry. I'll remove it.
Yeah, this line why is coming.
Please don't do that. I'm requesting all of you not to do that.
Okay, so the Feynman. Then he said that time, okay, why we cannot write that entire 24 volumes of Encyclopedia Britannica on the head of the pin. So that was, he said, so there is a plenty of room at the bottom, means you can go to a nanoscale and write many things on the small space. Then that was the 1959 brief history where we'll go. So Feynman gives a talk. 1974, Taniguchi used the term nanotechnology. That time in 1959, it was not there. Then 77, Drexler talks about the molecular nanotechnology. First technical paper comes in 1981. Then STM, this is the main breakthrough. That time scanning tunneling microscope was developed around 1982. And then after that, many nanotechnology started, many things. And 1991 nanotechnology journal was published, came. Then carbon nanotubes, first nanosystems, and 2007 Nobel Prize in Physics for nanotechnologies was given. And then 2010 Nobel Prize in Physics for, again, it was given for nanotechnology itself, for the graphene material. So how it comes, the development of computers related dimensions we can discuss. So the 875, that is the Abascus was Abacus was there. So all of you know this abacus counting. Still the kindergartens or the class now UKG, LKG students, they are taught, and now many abacus classes are there. So they can do very fast counting. So this is the first counting what was started that time using this system, abacus. Then came Ortred. He made the slide rule in 1600. I think I have also not used this. So all of might have not used this type of scales, but it was in the beginning around 1600. And this is around 1806 typewriter, which is much different from today's typewriter. Now in 1822, Charles Babbage made the multifunctional calculator or a mechanical computer that time. See, it was like this, in which we have this what do you call steering in a car, steering handle. So you rotate for a number of times, and then it gives you a number of calculations. It was like the phone we have been using. Still, some places might be using, but nowadays it is obsolete. So for dialing a number, you have to just go full circle of that number. Similarly, it was there. And this shows how it has developed evolution of the telephone. The 1914, then 20s, 60s, 70s is there. Nowadays, everything has changed, many things. So this was Charles Babbage in 1822 began to design and build a small working model of an automatic mechanical calculating machine, which is called the difference engine. And it could find out the first 30 prime numbers in 2.5 minutes. So first 30 prime numbers, just like if you want to do it, it will be a long time, but it can do it in 2.5 minutes that time. So what he made in Charles Babbage at that in 1933, so it included 5 concepts that proved crucial for the development of the future computer. And still, we have the same 5 things like the input device, the storage facility to hold number of processings, then a processor or a number calculator, then a control to direct the task to be performed, and an output device. These are the 5 things which are still in the same, we are using computer, main 5 parts. Okay, so now coming to 1946, the ENIAC, US Army made this electronic numerical integrator in a computer. So this was the first 10 feet tall, occupying a space of 80 by 30 feet computer, having around 17,000 vacuum tubes. Okay. And this photograph I have added here, this is a Ada Lovelace portrait of, I think. So this is a relation between these photographs. I think that these photographs should have been here, and there is something in around 1946 or 45. They started portraying men for the development of these things, but the actual brain behind this was this lady. Okay. So ENIAC built during World War II started as a secret collaborative project between the US Army and the University of Pennsylvania, Moore School of Electrical Engineering there. So now this photograph, if you see, can anybody tell what is this photograph from, where from this has been taken? Any idea? If you remember, anybody from the participants? Hello. This photograph, anybody can remember what is that? Actually, it may be controlled from all of you. Muted. So this is, and this part is from the ENIAC, and this is from the MOM. That like the Women in Technology for ENIAC to MOM, that is the Mars Orbiter mission. And this just I have given these 2 photographs to show that the ENIAC, the main people behind that was these ladies. That's why I have shown you the photograph here. Instead of this person, it should be this lady. If you read the history of that ENIAC, then you will find it out. Similarly, in Mars Orbiter mission, we had the ladies, the main major group who have done the Mangalyaan. Now this you see, this is the 5 MB hard disk drive in 1956, but with the development of nanotechnology, we have this small 1 TB micro SD card in 2020. 1 TB data can be stored, and that is due to the development of new nanotechnology. So how it started, you can, this William Shockley, John Bardeen, and Walter, how they are related. And all these three you might be knowing, because they had this, all the miniaturization started due to this invention of these three scientists. And they got the Nobel Prize in 1956, and the invention was the transistor in 1947. So due to the development of transistor, everything started. Like you have seen that ENIAC computer, 17,000 vacuum tubes were there. But in 1947, transistor was made. Then this used in electronic revolution and compactification of the devices. So what is all the fuss about nanotechnology? So if you search on Google, any given search will give you 1.6 million hits or more than that also. So it is a $1 trillion market now. Everywhere if you see nanotechnology involved, and from the household to military, defense, everything there is. So nanotechnology influences almost every facet of everyday life, such as security and medicine also. So what is nanotechnology? So if you say all the nanotechnology is widely talked about, there is little consensus about where the nano domain begins. So this is just a survey from the people. How would you define nanotechnology? If it asks, then the percentage of people responded. It's like that. So the response was like technology that works with elements up to 100 nanometer size, 45% people say. Then technology that works with elements up on a submicron level, that is a 17%. Then technology that operates under the new laws of physics, 5%. Technology that operates at the level of atoms and molecules, 23%. And then others, no response, 10%. So that makes 100. So why this is the difference in opinion, the elements up to 100 nanometers? Because the people working in different field have different range for that one. People working in metallurgy may say up to 250 nanometers is the nanotechnology, but people in chemistry can say 50 nanometers. People working on biology systems, they can go either even lower, but generally up to physicists that we work, all physics people that say up to 100 nanometer size is the nanotechnology. But generally above 250, we don't consider them as the nanomaterials. So what is nanoscience that we have talked? So this is an emerging interdisciplinary science involving physics, chemistry, biology, engineering, material science, computer science. People in computer science also are working on computational nanotechnology and many things. So all the fields are involved. Now coming to the lowering of the size. So you might be remembering the desktop were there. Still we are using desktop. Then laptop came, then palm tops, and these are the palm tops. Okay. And this side I've shown the this is the mobiles, how mobile technology has been decreasing day by day, and now again it is on the bigger side because they're involved in putting many things in the same mobiles. So this is stepping towards the miniaturization, that is due to the nanotechnology itself. So understanding size, so how small or big we are talking about. So if you see in this photograph, this is a 1 meter by 1 meter photograph. We can see it is continue, and we see that the leaves and some rose flowers are there. So, but if you have a zooming camera and if you zoom it, so you can find something else also on the leaves, like the housefly is sitting on the leaves. This is in the range of 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter, but it still looks continuous. But if you're coming to more 1 centimeter where granulation starts, we can see on the leaves granulation is there, granules. For 100 micrometers, so the fly's eyes is made of hundreds of tiny facets, we can see. So if you take the photographs of our eyes also, you will find this type of facets. and which resembles the honeycomb structure. Now this is coming to 10 micrometers still. So you can see small lenses with the light sensitive cells underneath. So these are sensors and these are the sensors underneath. So which is like this one at 1 micrometer level. So in between facets are bristles which give sensory input from the source to the eye. And then if you go further 100 nanometers, the bristle, so this was the bristle here. Now if you go to 100 nanometers, the bristle can be, and when you go to 10 nanometers, at the center of the cell is the tightly called nano DNA. DNA, RNA, these are the strands. So now if you go still further 1 nanometers, we get the atoms and molecules constituting the helix. So these helix are made of the atoms. And now further we have atoms, but we are not going to there. We are still talking about the 1 nanometer range. So what do you say, what is nanotron? So if you reverse this, go backwards. So it is, if you see this is there just arrangement of atoms in a particular fashion, we get the things. So what is nanotechnology? So nanotechnology is the principle of atom manipulation, atom by atom at the molecular level. So it entails the ability to build molecular systems with atom by atom precision, yielding a variety of nanomachines. So implying a tailoring of the structure of material at atomic scale. So so it is important nanotechnology? Because since we are witnessing novel and exotic properties of materials through nanotechnology, it's all because effect of lower dimensions on the behavior of electrons like carriers. So when you are decreasing the size, the behavior of these electrons changes. Why? Because the properties of the carriers change dramatically when present confined in a nanomaterial like quantum confined systems. So if we here, I can say when we are going to nano levels, so if you consider to the natural world, if you go to a park, you see people there, some elderly people sitting on the benches. I mean, if you observe, they are sitting there. Some young generations, teenagers, they are walking and moving around. And but if you see the kids, they are more energetic and they are just trying to find out. They are very curious. Say they just touch it, anything, pick up anything, and then they want to know. So this is the same. If you relate the nanomaterials, they have they are high energetic and they have different properties like the children's. Similarly, when you and if you take one more analogy, if you confine the system, the property changes. Like here, because the property of charge carriers change dramatically when confined in a nanomaterial. So if you can correlate with, like, suppose we are human beings, social animals, so live in society. But suppose you pick up a person and put in a jail, but there are also many people. But if you put in a cellular jail where he is not able to meet anybody, not talk anybody, he does not have contact with outer world, so he will start behaving in few days differently. He may go mad also. So that is similarly here also is when your the electrons are in the bulk materials, they behave differently. When they go to the nanomaterials or when they're confined, they start behaving. So what way they behave, that we will see. So how did we get here in this nanotechnology? So new tools. So as tools change, what we can see and do changes. So this development is all due to the new tools what we are getting. Okay. So using light to see, the naked eye can see about 20 microns. Human hair is around this 50 to 100 microns that we can see it. And light microscope, let us see about 1 micron. So where you can see this, we have almost everyone have used and still used in biological labs and some physics chemistry labs, also physics labs. So light microscopes, which gives magnification up to 1,000 times. So red blood cells, we can see this is the 400 times magnified. Okay, so the light microscopes. But so if you want to magnify it 4,000 times, we are using the electron to see it. So that is a scanning electron microscope or TEM tools. So scanning electron microscopes invented in 1930s, that is around just before Second World War starting. It lets us see the object small as 10 nanometers. So it bounces electrons off the surface to create images, and a high resolution due to small lambda of electrons. So this, if you compare the wavelength of this light, so you know the dual nature of matter. The electrons have both the properties when they're moving, the particle and the wave nature. So the wave nature is being used here. And the wavelength of the particles, means the electrons which are accelerated in this tube, is around 10 to the power minus 5 times that of the visible length. So that's why you can see very small objects. So visible range wavelength is larger than 10 to the power 5 times of this. So we have other devices like the touch the surface, that is the scanning probe microscopes developed in 1980s, that during the brief history I've told, around 82 it was developed. And then we can now see really small things like atoms and move them too. So these atoms, if you see the scale, this is tip is how much, this is total, the scale is 25 nanometers, the tip is much smaller than that one. So nanometers, these are the major instruments which are like XRD, scanning electron microscope, AFM and EM, which are generally basic research instruments to do the characterization of the materials. And this is the scanning electron microscope. We are not going to the details, you might be knowing. Or then we have scanning tunneling microscopes, which gives you the atomic level roughness of the surface. Then we have atomic force microscope, which can give you many informations. So now that we can see what's going on, how do properties change at the nanoscale, that we will be discussing. So that means size dependent properties. So that means size matters everywhere. So like how do you call sui and sword, talwar. So where you can take this example. If you see here in the figure, the elephant is there and a mouse is there. So they are different in size, so they can do different things. What the mouse can do, the elephant cannot do, but what elephant can do, the mouse cannot do. So it's not just how big you are, it's what you can do with it that is important. So we can see this nanotechnology that I have given a timeline after this started with Feynman, then three scientists who got developed the transistor, and then development of SEM, TEM, AFM, all these things. But this nanotechnology is not the new one. If you see this microscope, it is from the 4th century AD. Green light, it shows green light in reflected and from the transmitted, this is the reflected light, and red in transmitted light. And people have done research on this and found out that it has particles of in the nano range. So they have silver and gold nanoparticles in this microscope. So that means this is from 4th century AD. So the nanotechnology was still present at that time, but that this term nanotechnology or coining of the word started recently, and we are able to see see the things when these instruments have been developed. Similarly, if you consider this coronavirus, so some doctors say this coronavirus was existing earlier also, but nowadays we are able to see this on the from the devices that you have termed the novel coronavirus. Earlier was also present, but we're not able to see them. So as the development is taking place, we are able to see smaller and smaller things, and new things are coming up. So this is the limits of nanotechnology. That atomic, they have written, IBM is written. This is xenon on nickel 110 plane. So xenon atoms. So this was written by this Don Igler. He is the IBM scientist whom I met in 2010 in Japan. JSPS fellowship that time there when I was there, 2010. So he took around 22 hours writing this in around 1986 it was written, and you know that STM was told it is 1986 or 1996 maybe. I think 86 only, because in 1982 it was developed STM, and that time it was 22 hours it took to writing this, but nowadays it can be written in 15 hours, 15 minutes only. And these are the different structures made written with the atoms, like copper C60 on copper, iron on copper, and cesium iodine on copper they have made. So now coming to the two different ways of fabrication, nanofabrication. So this is the, if you see from the photograph, you can know what I am going to speak. This is the top-down method. Start with a big chunk and cut away materials and make what you want. That is a top-down method of making nanomaterials. And this is the starting from the bottom up. Like the children's still in kindergartens, they start with Legos and then make a building, or any building we know we are using bricks to small bricks to make the building, arranging in a particular pattern. Here also they have used. So building what you want by assembling it from small prefabricated units such as atoms and molecules. That is the bottom up method. Or you can like take a big chunk and start cutting it and small and then grind it. You can achieve nano level in high energy ball milling units. But there are other methods also, chemical synthesis method, physical method, like biological synthesis method. So in chemical synthesis, you take the constituent elements, mix with some solvents and other some maintain the pH, temperature and concentration. Then you may get some nanomaterials, and with taking care of time, pH and other parameters, you can have different shapes also. Similarly, with physical method, that is the laser ablation we have shown here. So laser bounces on this metal and then gets evaporated and gets deposited. So different structures you can make it. Similarly, biological systems, which is like the chemical synthesis itself, but here we are using the mainly the biological materials available, not the artificial things. So these are different techniques by which we can make the nanomaterials. So we can take it now, discuss some nanofabrication, how much time it takes. So this I have shown some coins, which are the Indian coins. Now, if it asks, if you could make one slice per unit per minute, how long would it take you to cut a coin in 1 nanometer slice? So if you calculate it, it will come around 31.7 years to make it 1 nanometer level. Okay. Similarly, if you have if you could add 1 atom per second, how long will it take to create a 13 nanometer gold colloid? So adding up these cubes to make a bigger cube, like atom by atom. So that is around this much seconds you're taking. So if you are adding this much 5,40,000 seconds per colloid, or this much days to make a billion colloid nanoparticles. Okay, so that is if you are going by this method, it's very time consuming things, but there is a self-assembly process by which the nature makes, and this is not a self-assembly method, and I'm not going to discuss also that self-assembly process by which there are signals by which they assemble in the form. So if I can tell you, like let me see if it is there or not. No, the slide is not there. So if you can take an example, like if you all of you might some of you might have small children. When you go to live then in the school for last 1.5 years, you're not going to school, but earlier, so when you go to drop the children, if you see the before if they are going before the time this classes start or the prayer starts, so the children are playing all over and some are gossiping. But as soon as the bell rings, they all come up to the prayer ground in a particular fashion, in a line, suppose smaller to higher height wise, class wise they assemble, and then class 1, 2, 3 like that they arrange. So here the signal was that as soon as the bell rings, they know what has to be done. Similarly, in the self-assembly process, there are magnetic forces, electrical forces. Then they help in forming the materials in a particular fashion very fast, very fast. But here I am showing about the fabrication at nanoscale. So here, if you see on the structure, they have made hexagonal type of structure, and that this much scale is 500 nanometers. So this is very small in the nano level. So how to make that one? So this is a clean substrate they have taken, and nanospheres are dropped on this one and let it dry in a solution they have taken. Then when it dries up, so you get this type of structure, and now from the top you can deposit the material. So when they are placed like this, 3 balls, there will be gap in between, and that will be a particular pattern. So this is the pattern we are getting it. So when you then deposit the metal and then remove the nanospheres, then you will get this type of structure made on this with this pattern. This is the lithographic technique. You can take it like a screen printing method also, like this, where the screen is the through which the paint passes, and then you get the print on the clothes and other materials on which you want to print it. So this was I was talking the nanosphere, this nanosphere. So when you spray from the top, I think we have also done in the school like drawing class. So suppose you want to print something of figure, then take a brush and liquid watercolor and then spray it. So you can get the pattern. The same thing is done here. These are nanospheres, and you deposit the metals from the tops and then remove the balls. You get this structure like this, 125 nanometers. Oh. So properties, what we talk is like, suppose here the light properties, we have shown it here. Say a property describes how a material acts under certain conditions. Like what properties we discuss in nanomaterials changes, like the optical property, effect of nanomaterials on the optical, that is the color and transparency. Then electrical property means the conductivity, how it changes. Then physical, that the hardness and the melting point, how it changes. Similarly, the chemical reactivity and the reaction rates, how it changes. So generally, we see in the bulk, we talk about 10 to 23 aggregates of atoms, but at nanoscale, we discuss only of some few atoms. Like if you take example of zinc oxide and see its property. So if you see here, this is the lady putting on the sunscreen lotion, and it is looking white type. So this lotion contains zinc oxide. The zinc oxide, this is the traditional zinc sunscreen, this white, and it blocks the UV light where they put, and they scatter visible light and appear white. And this type of, you might have seen in cricket matches also, some these fielders, they put the screen, these sunscreen lotions earlier. Nowadays you don't see that, but earlier it was like a white powder, we are seeing it, and it was not to scare the batsman, but just for the protection from the UV light. Okay, but with the development of nanotechnology, now if you see, this is nanoscale zinc oxide sunscreen, which is clear, and at the nanoscale it is still doing the UV light protection, but so small compared to the wavelength of visible light that they don't scatter and appears clear. So when you change the size of the same zinc oxide particles, here it was white and now it is clear. So the optical properties have changed in this too, but the other chemical and physical properties are same. And so these are the zinc oxide nanoparticles, TM photograph, it is shown here. And if you say some scale is given, some 30 or 50 nanometers, so these are of that size. Now, if you come to the bulk gold, that is appears yellow, and but 12 nanometer size, it looks like red. This is the same gold particle. So the nano size gold appears red in color. But when it comes to a smaller size, the 12 nanometer size, the particles are so small that electrons are not free to move about as in bulk gold. And because of this movement is restricted, the particles react differently with light. That is what they reflect or absorb some property changes with the size. So that's why they look different color. Whereas in the bulk state, it looks yellow. So why it is cool? If you see the bulk gold, that is melting point is 1064, and but when you decrease the size, the melting point around 1 nanometers, it is 700 degrees centigrade, and the color also is a brown yellow color, and giving around lambda max of 420 nanometers. But when you increase the size to 20 nanometers, its melting point is around 1000, and color becomes red. Then making it 100 nanometers, this is the gold particles, this color, purple, pink, and melting point is. So if you see the previously I've seen the optical properties changing here also, and at the same time their melting point is changing. So when it is bulk size, it is 1064, but at 1 nanometer it comes down to 700, and if you increase again, it goes to other side, 1000 degrees centigrade. So these are the different sizes of colloidal particles, same materials in different sizes. So 2, 5, 6, 150 nanometers. You can see this is the how color is changing of the same. It is the same material. So why it changes? You can see the bulk has this conduction band and valency band gap is there. So when it goes to smaller sizes, decrease in size, there is increase in band gap. So when it is decreasing, the energy band gap is changing. So when there is energy band gap changing, there is a change in the color. So generally in nanotechnology, we talk about the blue shift. So if you see this color, it is what's red here. It is as you decreasing, that is going towards the blue shift, which we have studied the red shift, that is the expansion of the universe. And just the opposite is there when it is decreasing size, it is a blue shift. And the second melting point decreases dramatically with the size for a material like gold itself, it is given. The melting point, it is coming and then dramatically it decreases. So this is the extrapolation. It may not be the same line, but up to this size they have measured, and this is around 500 degrees centigrade. So it may become 0, but there is no such report till date. So how it changes? So this is a change in melting point of the materials is given by this formula 2 T naught sigma by rho L R. So the R, the particle radius, so it is dependent 1 upon R, and the latent heat of fusion, other parameters are there, but the change in depending on the decrease in the sizes. How much? If it is more change temperature, that means the radius is much smaller. So lowering of the melting point is proportional to 1 over R. Delta theta can as large as couple of 100 degrees when the particle size gets below 10 nanometers. So that you might have seen here in this one, how drastically it changes when at lower scale. Now coming to this carbon nanotubes, which are the materials. Nanotubes are long, thin cylinders of carbon. They have different structures, zigzag, armchair, and chiral. And say, depending on their structure, they have different properties. So this I had told you the first slide itself. It was used, this carbon nanotube was used as a connector. So why connect? We know that copper is a very good conductor, best conductor actually. Copper is the best conductor, not the copper, silver. Silver is the best conductor, then copper, and then gold it comes, silver. So why carbon nanotubes was used as a connector in the system, the nanosystems. So as you know, this melting point, so when you pass current and the current density, that is the current passing through per unit area. So if when you go to nano level, the area is decreasing very much. So the current density is increasing. And when current density is increasing, the joule heating is also increasing. So at for a small current itself, the material silver will be, and when you use a very thin wire, its own property is also decreasing. That is, the melting point is decreasing, and similarly, so that's why carbon nanotubes of graphite they are used, and they have very high melting points. So this can be used there as a connector. Now it has been compared with some other materials, carbon nanotubes. Like density, aluminum has density 2.7 grams per cc, and it has 1.30 to 1.4, so almost half the density. And tensile strength is around 45 billion pascals, whereas this is high strength steel alloys break around 2 billion pascal, but it has the 45 billion pascals going to its size. Then it has a better resilience, and current carrying capacity is very high. It can estimated a 1 billion amperes per square centimeter it can carry, but copper wires burn out at about 1 million ampere per centimeter square. So this can be done. And you might have been seeing this, the tennis rackets which are using carbon nanotubes are very costly. Like similarly, the badminton rackets, some tires, they are using carbon nanotubes. And some years back in the Pragati Maidan, this trade festival, some cycles were there on display of around 5 lakhs rupees. Cycle of 5 lakh rupees means they were made of very light materials, like the carbon nanotubes were used to make the frames and other things. So it was very light. Similarly, you might have nowadays traveled in Dreamliner, the flight, which is double decker, the aeroplane. They are also, due to nanotechnology, they have reduced the weight of the plane and increased the capacity of the load, I mean, by increasing the number of passengers. Let me skip this. So what are nano systems? The macroscopic systems we talk, this is the bulk material. When you talk microscopic systems, that is the elementary particles like nuclei, atoms, molecules. When you talk of mesoscopic systems, that is 1 to 100 nanometers, at least in one of the dimension, they are called the mesoscopic systems. So depending on that, if it is the system is few nanometers in one dimension, we call it is a quantum well. If it is in 2-dimensional, that is a quantum wire. And if it is in nanometers in 3-dimensional, then it becomes a quantum dot. So generally, some people say quantum dot 0 size, 0 dimension, but it's in nanometer size. You cannot have 0 dimensions. So considering the particles confined in a 1D box of length L, so you know that the thermal de Broglie, the people, if the participants are from physics or chemistry, some people may know. The thermal de Broglie wavelength of the particle is given by this formula. So wavelength, thermal de Broglie wavelength due to the temperature. So if this wavelength is comparable to the size of the materials, the confinement, then the purely quantum mechanical treatment becomes necessary. So the particles cannot be treated classically. That means suppose you have nanomaterials and the thermal de Broglie wavelength is larger than that, means the temperature is larger. Due to that, the wavelength is larger than the confinement length, then you have to go for quantum mechanical treatment. So this you can find out that this is the energy eigenvalue. And if you say this is for one-dimensional quantum well, people from physics chemistry might have solved. So if you see this, the energy levels difference is 10^20 minus 20 electron volt for 1 meter distance, the length of the quantum well. If it is 1 nanometer, it comes down to 10^-2 electron volt. And if it is typical semiconductors around 1 nanometer, it comes out to be 1 electron volt. So what is the benefit of this? So the energy level separation is of the same order as in it. So what is happening actually? So if people who have studied semiconductor materials, so if you want to change the band gap of the material, you mix 2-3 materials, gallium arsenide or indium phosphide and other things. But with nanotechnology, with the same material, we can just change the size, we can manipulate or tune the band gap or the energy levels. Okay, so we don't have to go for other materials. only this can be tuned. So these are some details of that one. I'm not discussing how it is changing. You may get book. If you want the slides, I will give you. So this compare here the blue light and this white light. So a few years back we had only other colors, but now we have in the market like blue LEDs also and white LEDs also we have got, and that is due to the nanotechnology. Now you can use, say, just change the size of the material and you get the colors. So that is shown here. Again, energy band gap increases with decrease of quantum well thickness, indicating the quantum effect is significant at a small feature size. That is the blue shift. Okay. So how this materials properties changes, like nanoparticles exhibit size-dependent properties that are profoundly different from the corresponding bulk material. So if you see electrical properties, check it, high electrical conductivity in ceramics and magnetic nanocomposites and higher resistivity in metals due to this nano size. What happens to the magnetic properties? There is increase in magnetic resistivity, but everything this has a critical limit also. Beyond that, it may become, like I have said, silver is very good conductor, but it may become a non-insulator beyond a particular size. Now, increase in magnetic permittivity down to a critical size in the nanoscale regime. And below the critical crystal size, decrease in permittivity leading to the superparametric behavior. Similarly, mechanical increase in hardness and strength of the metals and alloys, enhanced ductility, toughness, formability of the ceramics, super strength and super plasticity, we are getting it. So you might have seen in the market that some watches are very costly because they have scratch-free, so that the cover on that or metal coating is the nanoparticle coating, and they are scratch-free. That's why they're, or you can say the diamond-like coating is done on the materials, and they are become very costly. In optical properties, also blue shift of the optical spectra or quantum confined crystallite sites, increase in luminescent efficiency of the semiconductors takes place. Chemical fundamental understanding of the heterogeneous catalytic properties also increases when you go to the nano level. So this you can understand like that when the surface to volume ratio is increasing, you have more surface to react, and similarly the catalytic property will increase. Like if you put a big cube of a sugar cube in a cup of coffee or tea and leave it as it is, it will take a longer time to dissolve and come. But if you crush that material into powder form, and then it will be easily dissolved and you can get the sweetness very fast. Now this is about the structural numbers in particles FCC structure. Like I have talked about the bottom-up method. So when you are in the nature or anywhere, this is when we talk about nanotechnology. So it is a systematic arrangement of nanoparticles, or the atom by atom arrangement. So if you have atoms by atoms, so the one cell structure, these are the magic numbers actually. So one cell to form the structure, you get 13 atoms and the surface atoms are 92%. When you make the double cell, there are 55 atoms and 76% are on the surface. Similarly, as you go on 7 cells, so your total number of atoms is this and you get the structure. And then the number of atoms on the percentage is only 35. So in a bulk, the number of atoms on the surface is very less than in the inside. So that's why property is getting different. Now coming to the nanomaterials in consumer products, the future is now, if you see, I have just talked about the tennis racket and medicines everywhere. This is the soles. Nowadays you get you will not get foul smell in the soles, clothes, the pants. Other than we have this nano mask, we have got N95 and other things. Then we have paints, also very good paints, shining paints with the nanomaterials. Okay, then we have cosmetic things like with nanoskin technology using nanometal sunscreens But here one thing is in small ingredients, big risks. So these industries are throwing the waste, the nanomaterials in the drains, which goes to the rivers and other sea also, and that may cause big risk to the aquatic animals, and in the long run it may affect the human beings also. Then you have fresh wraps, like in which you can put it miracle food storage for a longer time. Then in every field you have got the this nanotechnology nowadays, like brooms, food storage, refrigerators, air filters. In some of the companies, which the AC, air conditioner, they say this is they can kill bacteria free. Similarly, the um, fridge also, they say sports clothes, washing machines, they come with nanomaterials coating or something like that. This is about the gecko tape, that is the nanotechnology. You have seen the lizards walking on the walls or the roofs. So how they do, they have this bristles like structure, nano bristles in their pads, the legs pads, and they just stick to the surface of the walls. But we don't have, so we cannot move on that one. And that technology is being used like the lotus leaf. So if you, this is the lotus leaf, it is continuous, you're seeing, but if you take the camera, means CMO, you're seeing small bristles here of nano level. So due to what is happening, when this water is falling on this, the contact angle, the contact angle, what is that, how do you measure it? This contact angle is very much large. So they are not able to stick. So this phenomena, if you do it on the smart buildings, you do the nano coating on the surface, the building will automatically clean. Like here, it is a smooth surface, but it is not cleaning the surface, the dirt here. But when it is a lotus effect, that is means nano coating on the surface, that will be cleaning all the, means automatic cleaning of the surface will take place. So this is the same thing. Then we have biomimetic structure like this drag reduction by shark screen. The shark in the water moves very fast, so that is due to the some structure they have. And nowadays, this type of structures has been being used in the aeroplanes and some fast-moving cars also, like so that they get less restriction or the surface friction. So Airbus fuels consumptions down by 1.5% when shark skin coating applied to the aircraft. Okay, so that is the thing. Then you have smart fabric like the pine cone model, in which when it is heat inside, it will open up. When it is cold, it will just close up. So adapts to the changing temperature by opening when warm and shutting down when it is cold. This type of clothes are available in the market, smart clothes. So the application of nanotechnology in almost all the field: automotive, chemical industry, engineering, medicine, construction, electronic industries. So all these things are there present and people are using it. And then in energy, cosmetics, sports, outdoor, household, like household ceramic coatings on irons, order catalysts, and cleaner for glass, ceramic floor, windows, everywhere they are using. So what is the challenge with us? The use of nanotechnology research challenge to help clean the past environmental damages and then correct the present environmental problems and prevent the future environmental impacts. Okay, so and help sustain the planet for the future generations. So today's science fiction is tomorrow's technology. So you might have studied nowadays also, if you see some movies, various abstract movie, so in that they show such things which are, we see that it is not possible in the nature, but after a few years when there's better much more better instruments and inventions, we see that is there. So nowadays, like open heart surgery and other things like this. You have small cameras just can be inserted. You have nano materials that in drug delivery, we have everything. So that is today's fiction is tomorrow's technology. So we see that we can have this type of robots, smaller robots, which can be inserted inside the veins and they can collect the cancerous cells or the unwanted materials. So now we have developed already like some small robots or mouse-like robots which can find out like somewhere, suppose earthquake has been happened and building has collapsed. So the people, that type of robots can be moved inside and they can check if some people are alive or not there. So they can be rescued. Similarly, this is now I'm coming towards the end of that. So nanotechnology is a new day. New areas of research and technology design, better understanding of matters and interactions, new ways to tackle important problems in healthcare, energy, and environment and technology is being taken place. That's why people are more working on the nanotechnology. So this is the main building I have shown from the top in the first slide, and this is from the front. And this is the IIT Kharagpur, where from I graduated. And this is our department, physics. Okay, thank you. So now if you have some questions, I can discuss.
Thank you, Professor Yadav. And I'd like the participants to, if you have one question is there. Okay, I'll make him the co-host so he can ask the question. Yes, Mohammed Kashif Shameen.
Hello, good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
I have a question.
Yeah, ask.
To probe the nanostructure.
Yeah.
You told about STM.
Yeah.
So STM and X-ray tomography, which one is better?
Okay, tomography.
STM is better or tomography is better?
Now tomography is getting much closer than the STM. The range is less, I think. STM or this tomography is much better nowadays. People in our department, they have started working on that one. That will be better resolution than the STM.
And sir, one more question which I have a little bit of doubt. That when we talk about nanotechnology, it is like when we are preparing the bulk ceramics, we have a structure and we have a unit cell and lattice parameter and all that.
Yeah.
Let's suppose it is of 4 or 5 angstrom lattice parameter, with the cubic structure. When we go to nanostructure, this lattice parameter changes or the whole of the unit cell changes. I have a confusion in that. Can you please elaborate?
Yeah, I had shown one magic number slide here. And because I have a whole full lecture on that one, that is the nanocrystals. So, so when we see nanotechnology, any material starts from building from the small stuff. Okay, this is the. So if you say this structure, so when at one scale, if you take only 13 atoms, actually here the structure is getting modified up to the 7 cells. When you have large number of atoms, the structure is different from this one. If you take it roughly here, okay. So the number of atoms, 13 atoms, and for this much 1400 atoms, the structure is completely different, but not so much. But when you take 5 atoms, 6 atoms, so I have other slides also not here now. At the lower level, they have different structures, but when they go to the bulk, they get the actual bulk structure. Okay, so the structure at 3 atoms, 4 atoms, or the will be different. They have a different structure, and then property will be also different. I think you get the answer because If you just search with this structural magic numbers on the net, you may get it. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
There is one question from Dr. G. Ramanathan. What is the simple meaning of quantum confinement?
The simple meaning of quantum confinement, that confinement, I have given you an analogy with the person in a jail or a cellular cell. So quantum confinement, when this, suppose you take a wire of 1 mm diameter. Now you start drawing it in a thinner and thinner one. So when you go to a nano level, this movement of the electrons will be changing. That is if when you confine the movement, let it move in only one direction. Suppose one dimensional well, a quantum dot, quantum wire, or quantum well. So there is movement in, suppose you take a sheet, A4 sheet, if you take, suppose like the printing paper, A4 sheet, the length and width is larger, but the thickness is around 30 micron. It is there, generally 30-40 micron thickness is there. Now, suppose if you make it this thickness of the wire 30 micron to nano level, then the material, you can say it is, the electrons are confined in one of the dimensions to move only in nanometer level, but other dimensions, it is some in centimeters, like 15 centimeter, 30 centimeter, but in one of the dimensions, it is only nano size or micron size. That is the quantum confinement. If it is all the dimensions like the quantum dots, when you say, so the material is like just 10 nanometer size or 1 nanometer, 100 nanometer size. So it's not able to move in any particular direction, means all the directions freely. It is just confined. That I have said, like cellular jail, the person is not able to move around. Then its behavior changes.
There is one more question, I think, from Sonu Kumar.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Hello,
Yeah.
sir.
Yes.
First of all, thanks for your such a wonderful presentation on nano materials and
Thank you. I have not gone into details of everything,
Yeah,
but I have given
but
major
yeah,
things.
sir. But
Yeah.
at least you given a view. So
Yeah,
that,
view. So that was
yes,
there.
sir. Sir, my question is that related with nanoparticles,
Yeah.
how these nanoparticles manipulate light? Actually, when light incident on such nanoparticles, so if you compare with like other particles like some type of conductors, dielectric, so nanoparticles response in same way as these material response to light.
I have shown you, Miss, how do you see the color? Miss, if you take the visible color, like the quantum dot materials, different size, one slide was there. Miss, how you see the, means if you are allowing white, suppose take the example of cell phone paper. It's a red cell phone paper. So when you allow, it is reflecting the red color, so you see red color. If it is a blue cell phone paper, blue color is reflected. Similarly, in quantum dots, so how much, which portion of the light, the spectrum, it is getting absorbed and which is getting reflected, it is changing with the dimensions, because when you are changing the dimensions, the band gap of the material is also changing. So that way it is changing. Okay.
Sir, one thing, as you said, band gap of material changes.
Yeah.
So generally, if band gap of material changes and that correspond different energy, so suppose that will give energy in forms of h nu or hc by lambda. So can I consider that for different lambda we have different terms of light, like monochromatic light or any light?
Yeah, different wavelength, different particles, different size particles which will reflect different colors. That I'm saying. What was your question exactly?
Actually, these things are actually this question I have asked in interview, about blue shift and how with change of band gap, color change happen, variation in the band gap.
Yeah, absorption changes. Now, if you see when the band gap absorption, I think it was here only, this thermal de Broglie wavelength, and here also one example was about this how length confinement changes, the band gap changes, and one slide was there. I think this one. So when the size is decreasing, the band gap is changing, the energy absorption will change. So the materials, so color will be changing, absorption will be changing. So actually photoluminescence, if you measure, the peak will be, I have not that photograph here, photoluminescence plot of different quantum dots. So the peak position will be coming at different wavelength, or that is a different energy. So because of that different band gap, you're getting it.
Yes, sir. And sir, one last thing about, as you said about synthesis of nanoparticles.
Yeah.
So how laser is used? You said about laser ablation. So any particular type of laser we use for this, to doing such thing, or any specific laser can be used for this?
No, what is the function of laser there? It's giving some energy to the material to ablate. The function of the laser is to only the evaporate the material. It is giving some energy, and the material gets heated up and it evaporates from there. So you have to take what is the substrate you're using and how much energy is required for that. So that energy with that frequency, you have to use that, or that wavelength laser you have to use. Here the laser is the only giving energy, nothing else. So that much energy it should provide. Otherwise, it will be not evaluated and you will not get the material.
Okay, sir. And last thing, sir.
Yeah.
How do we make, sir, optical tweezers? These are also made from nanoparticles or from different things?
Optical tweezers means tuning materials. Yeah, exactly. Optical tweezers, I have not studied about that one, but I've heard it. But tuning, if you optical, may be related to optical tuning. So means how to change the different bandwidth that may be there.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
There is one question from Annie Oreen Albert.
Yeah.
It is, can you explain whether surface plasmon resonance and
Yeah.
quantum mechanical confinement are related? And if they are, how they are related?
Okay, so this is related in that way. Means surface plasmon resonance happens when you have a very thin coating of nanomaterials, and it generally happens in metals, and when they resonate with the these nanomaterials resonate with the incoming wave incident electromagnetic waves. That way, it can be compared with your quantum confinement. It is not possible for, means if you have bulk coating, it may not be possible. Only very thin coating, and then interaction with the incoming radiation, surface plasmon resonance takes place.
Okay. Second, another question is,
yeah.
Can we take few more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Time.
Is how conductivity is going to behave in nano region. Increasing band gap should decrease the conductivity. Is it true for all cases in nanomaterials?
Yeah, it is. I have said that. I think some people were not listening. Silver, I have told it is a very good conductor, best conductor. But if you go on decreasing the size, band gap increases, and at a particular critical level, any metal, it will lose its dielectric property also. It may become insulator, metal becomes insulators, and magnetic material also may become some non-magnetic material. So there is a particular critical size beyond which it will not behave like that. Like very good ferromagnetic material like iron, if you decrease the size, it may become paramagnetic, or super paramagnetic property will come beyond a critical size. Similarly, the conductivity also changes.
So basically, they have to understand that the size will be the factor, principal factor in just the behavior of the materials. Whether maybe in bulk it is something else, and in nano it will be completely different from that.
When you have a bulk material, it shows the bulk property, but when you make it very nano material, so the same iron in bulk material will show the ferromagnetic property. At nano level, it will show super paramagnetism.
So size effect has to be very important, and that they have to understand.
Yeah, that is size effect. That I have given example of the part.
Yeah, you have
small children and the big grown-up senior citizens. How much active they are. How the
in detail. So,
how the property changes. Yeah.
The one more question from Shekhar. He's saying, so how carbon nanotubes are good at handling so much current?
Yeah, that is the graphite is very high melting point, and that's why better than this silver or gold. Gold is 1000, around that they melt, and when you make it thin, they are also coming lower temperature. In carbon nanotubes also, with the melting temperature will decrease with size, but it's better than the this carbon, no, not this, better than the silver or the gold. So that's why current density, they can withstand high current density.
Is there any more questions? Please raise your hand, then I can unmute you so that you can put your questions. I think we are done with the questions, and thank you very much, Professor Yadav.
Okay, thank you. And
we are meeting again tomorrow. We will be able to see you tomorrow.
Yeah, fine. So
I think
tomorrow,
the first session is yours tomorrow.
I think at what time? It's 10, yeah, 10 to 11.
It's 10 o'clock.
Okay.
So I'll
see
meet
you all tomorrow. Okay, bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.